Morning, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, we've got some pretty steep levels on the mics here. Technical production team's been out of action for a while, Mike.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Lateral Lawyers podcast. I'm your host, Shane Roddy. I've got Mike Edward with me this morning. Mike is an accomplished New Zealand actor, probably best known in non-acting circles for his role as Zach on Shortland Street, but he probably doesn't want to be remembered, at least not completely for that.
Oh, no, nothing wrong with a bit of Shortland Street evil villainous.
I was talking more about Zach.
All right, okay.
Spartacus, Power Rangers, a whole lot of theatre work, the Dust Palace, which we'll get to. Mike's done a whole lot of very cool stuff in his life, stuff that, when we're all growing up, we want to be a sports star or a movie star, or Mike's done that. And we thought we have a relationship with Mike here at Lateral. He's a client of ours, a referrer, and someone we really enjoy working with, because it's not all just about making money in this game. It's also about building relationships and having fun along the way. So Mike's someone we've come to enjoy on our books, and takes us up to the Northern Club, which has been redone, and it's actually very nice these days, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, that is a nice place. Yeah, it's awesome.
Not as stuffy as it used to be, for sure.
No, yeah. Well, to be honest, I didn't go there back in the day, so I didn't know what it was like back then. But certainly now it's a good place.
I got taken there once in the sixth form and got made to put on a tie, to my chagrin, when I got to the door, and I thought I'm never going back there. But when you said, do you want to come up there, I didn't realize quite how much they'd moved on. So
yeah, it's good. The last time my involvement with it before I joined there was actually I suspended a girl out of one of the windows for their 150th anniversary, and she was like sitting on a moon or something like that.
I don't know where you were going with that. No, very cool. So we thought we'd get Mike on because he's had an interesting journey, and we're just going to get him to tell us about his journey, and then how he's parlayed that into the commercial sector at a time where he thought, okay, money needs to be more of a focus now. Got a young family, and got to a stage in life where he's like, I've had, not to say you're not going to have fun anymore, Mike, but I've had a lot of fun. I've had
that's done.
That's done.
No more.
It's
fun.
over. It's just money. Yeah. So you're a grammar boy, a boarder?
Yeah, I was a boarder at grammar. My father was in property in Auckland, but then after '87, he got hit pretty hard and went back to Mātangi. And so I continued at school, and I boarded for about 3 or 4 years there at Tibbs House. Which was great. I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'd probably till my last year when I started to want more freedom. But the first few years it was cool. I'd never had brothers or anything like that, so it was a good time.
Super cool. And then where from there?
So I loved acting. Probably from a very young age. But it was in that time when it wasn't really considered as a viable career. Like even all through secondary school, no one ever said to me, even though I was doing all the plays and things, no one ever said, oh, you can do this as a living. So in my mind, it was always just a hobby. And even when I left school, I was like, okay, shall I go to med school or shall I do art? It was just about university. There was no thought about it continuing acting. And it wasn't till I was maybe, I did go to, started with science, and then I moved to the arts, and I was kind of faffing around. And then I think in my second year at university, I got a small role on a TV show, and it was right over all my exams, and I missed all my exams without hesitation. I just was like, great, okay, get the thing. And it was after that I realized that maybe I could consider it as a career. I was old enough to start thinking for myself, but it wasn't till 24 that I went to drama school and made that call. So it was quite a bit after I finished school and tried,
Yes,
going down the professional route for a while. So that's how I got into that.
And I don't know the answer to this, so it's not a leading question. Was it hard? Because I don't think people really understand how difficult and challenging
to be an actor. Yeah.
Or just even the process of the skills you have to learn, and the getting over the fear of embarrassment, and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, it's not most people. What do they say? People fear, only thing they fear more than death is public speaking.
Yeah. There's. I mean, I think it's been an extraordinary journey. The misconception that most people have with acting is that it's some sort of putting on of a layer, to be someone you're not. whereas the reality is that in life, everyone's putting on layers all the time.
Yeah.
We're all protecting ourselves with the way we dress, our humor, or who we think we are. We define ourselves as a thing. And I see really good acting is actually the opposite. It's taking away all those barriers that humans build up to protect themselves, and actually standing there a little bit more vulnerable and exposed. And that's the thing, when you see a good actor, an audience connects to, because you see the humanity. So good acting process is pulling stuff away. So the learning of doing it is 3 years at drama school of just ripping all your stuff away, and all your baggage and all your definitions about who you are, and you get to a point where you it's not like you lose the fear, or it's not like you are suddenly confident in the things. It's more that you just have the courage to stand there exposed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the cool thing is.
Having the fear and acting anyway.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's not trying to hide it. Like, even sitting here now, I'm a bit nervous talking to you,
Yeah.
and it's like, rather than try and be all bravado about it, like, you just kind of sit with it and go, I'm a bit awkward, and I'll stutter a bit, and I'll say some embarrassing things, but that's human,
Yeah. The best guests we've had on here are the ones who have evolved more along those lines.
Oh,
And
interesting.
Yeah, even if they don't have the most interesting story, or don't have the aren't necessarily the most charismatic or interesting, the ones who have been able to be most true to themselves, we get a lot of messages going, that guy was great, or that woman was great. It's
interesting. Yeah, it's authenticity. Yeah,
definitely. And we've had really interesting people on here who are real funny and lighthearted, and the minute the camera goes bang, they go live, they're just like
freeze up. Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah. And I felt for them, or feel for them when they come on. You're not one of those ones, by the way, but then at the same time, I'm going, fuck, why don't you just be like you were off air? That was funny as hell. Like, it's very interesting. And even accomplished people can do it.
Yeah.
In fact, often particularly accomplished people.
Yeah, well, it's one of the tricks of acting. I remember one of my cool acting teachers was this guy called Vadim, and it's kind of a rule for life. He said the thing that kills acting is, he talks about this 3-headed dragon, and he calls the 3 heads like the audience, the other actor, or yourself. And basically, as soon as your concentration goes on, oh my God, how am I looking on the stream, or Shane's freaking, or what am I doing with my hands? It's a concentration thing.
Yeah.
And he had this exercise. He goes, okay, think of a polar bear, a big white polar bear, and its ears and its kind of soggy feet because it's been in the water, and think it just, get it really pictured in your mind. And he goes, now don't think of it, and it's still there. But he goes, okay, now think of a little yappy dog, with its wagging tail and its tongue out and its black fur, and suddenly the polar bear's gone. Yeah. So it's like the exercise of concentration, like all that stuff with public speaking. If you really are just focus on the thing that you're trying to communicate, or the idea,
yes,
the other stuff falls away.
Yeah.
And I think in acting, as opposed to public speaking, you can latch on to things that maybe the character really want, or so you can hide a bit.
Yeah.
In that way.
It's all. I mean, all of it's an abstraction anyway, in the sense that when we're talking, there's actually who we're talking to. It could be one, or a president of the United States with billions of people watching, hanging off his every word. But if you actually think about it in terms of the output of what's coming out, there's no real connection to who's listening anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's the whole thing. Like I often was taught when I was doing this early on. Imagine you're in your own living room with Mike right now, having that conversation. The fact that other people are watching and judging the shit out of you is absolutely irrelevant.
Randomly wearing headphones and microphones. Yeah. No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. What are some of the more interesting? What do they call it in your industry? Gigs. What are the more interesting jobs? Roles.
I've been really lucky. Acting's hard. I think not a lot of there's not a lot of work for everyone.
I gather that,
and even my career has been awesome, but I've been broadcast for like a long time. So each job I always really am grateful for. Whatever it is, even if it's from your schlocky soap operas to your when you do cool plays. And I always think, oh, this could be as good as it gets, each one. Memorable ones. One of my favorite things was working with Sam Raimi, he came out here to direct the first episode of Ash versus Evil Dead, and he was the big he recently did Doctor Strange and that, and he works did Hercules back in the day. So he came out to do that. So it was a real honor to work alongside with him. And I was kind of a bit scared of what this, powerful man, because you only see the big letters Sam Raimi in front of the movie. And he was like so sweet. And he was just a grown-up nerd, and he was there talking, going, oh, you're going to walk around the corner and there's going to be this skeleton that's going to jump out at you. And, he was describing it like he would if he was 16, working with Rob Tappert when they first did the Evil Dead movie. It was just awesome. And he's like behind the camera flicking blood with a paintbrush at you. And it was just a really nice experience of going, oh, huge people are just, they just sat in themselves and they did the cool thing that really worked for them. And, their success is kind of just by on them sticking to their guns, like Peter Jackson in lots of ways as well.
It gets back to the layers again, though, right?
Yeah,
it's just like this perception of this big, tough, sort of almost, how do you put it, all powerful, all conquering guy. And he's just a human.
Just a human.
Where's genes? Just like you and I do.
So working with people. Michael Hurst is a similar kind of. I was going to say creature, similar kind of a person in New Zealand. He's like this amazing creative dude that is so playful and fun, but at the same time, he's Michael Hurst, which is terrifying and amazing and powerful. But when he engages in directing or working, he's just like a joy. He's like a child when he plays, and he's like that. It's quite a fun thing.
What effect did, once you'd read the sort of the veneer had been sort of pulled back with someone like these people, what effect did that have on you? Did that change, did it open your eyes?
Of course. Like, I think my first sort of 12 years or 15, probably even 15 years of my career, and it's like this in life for any kind of thing outside of acting, you're always trying to be someone you're not, or you're looking to others to go, oh, they've got the answers or they've got the right way. And so you're trying to, it's that thing of put something on. And the second you sit back and go, actually, I'm enough. Me being me is like, no one else can do that. And being relaxed into that, actually, that's when you start flying. So seeing those guys be like that, go, oh, you can be goofy and fun and not know all the answers, and and just play more than anything. And that transfers to, I think, everything.
So you got to a point with, what was it when you decided, because you've had a change of direction? You're now in the corporate world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why do you smile?
No, it's fine. No, it's funny. Well, it sounds like it's
death sentence.
No, it sounds like a sudden thing. Whereas, to be honest, the nature of acting, because it's a gig related job, and you don't know when you're going to get work or when you're not going to get work. I actually started working in property maybe 20 years ago, because it was, and the reason I chose it, an agency, was because it was self-employed.
Yes.
So I could go and do an audition, and that's fine. I could take a week or two off, and that's no drama. So I've actually always done it. So it's not a sudden segue. The suddenness of what I've done the last couple of years is actually just move into a salary position where it's full time. So I've actually had to say no to a lot of acting work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And talk us, how's it been?
It's actually been awesome. I still get
So you're at Gaze Commercial.
Yeah, and it's an awesome firm. Like Dave Gaze has been around for 40 years and built a wonderful family business. So it's just small enough. It's his couple of sons are working there, and he's still working there himself. Really nice guy, and he's done really well, which is great. So it's jumping on board a train which has been around for a long time and moving really solidly, and I'm learning heaps. I think in an agency you do deals and you're like, see ya, you're done. Whereas we've got a whole bunch of really amazing creative architects and delivery people. So I kind of don't need to do anything because they're all so incredible.
You do. It's the continuing.
It's facilitating. Yeah, it's like, but the
I know what you mean though.
It's really fun selling something that is, other people, they have huge capabilities and skills. So it's like,
I heard the term the other day. It was talking about professional services and how it was actually in the context of Enneagram and personality tests. I've been doing some work around that recently, and apparently people of my personality type, we're better at indirect rather than direct sales. So, for example, what we're doing now with these podcasts are in a way indirect sales. So
Yeah, I
and
understand.
what it is, it's we don't like the whole idea that we are going out to sell. I remember I had a job at law school selling accidental death insurance to people with farmers cards. I lasted one night. I was like, this is repugnant.
Yeah. It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's, in a way, when you're in a role like yours or mine, it's indirect sales in the sense that you're not actually saying, here's something to sell, but by just being in their midst and knowing what you're doing, you're actually selling ostensibly anyway.
Yeah.
And it's the same with what you're doing in the sense that while these people you're working with, they may not, that you may not be instrumental in retaining them, but if you're not good at what you do and don't do a good job holding those things together, you will lose people, or the relationship won't be as good or as beneficial for both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, really early on in property, and I think this comes from when you choose to be an artist, you have to let go of.
I chose to be an artist, but I just
Yeah. You let go of the idea of money driving you, and as a result, I was always an agent that would put the relationship ahead of the deal, which served me really well over the years. I built some really good clients, and I never thought I was selling anything but helping people.
Yeah,
and that's doubled up even more. With what I do now, because the change in office and what's gone on. We do a lot of fit outs. People are looking to try and figure it out. The whole work from home. How do we lay out the space? So it is a really high EV, sort of listening to people, understanding what they're trying to solve and helping them. So I never really feel like I'm selling.
That's an interesting one. I hadn't planned to go there. What's the general? There's so much in the media, and I see stuff in the media about this working from home or working from the office or whatever. And then I hear anecdotally from, for example, lawyer or partners and principals like myself, colleagues. What's the general sort of précis on where everyone's at with that whole shtick?
It certainly is a discussion for everyone, and I think the only thing that's become really clear is there's no one way that is right. So everyone's finding their own path with it. And it also depends a lot on your employees and the work that they do. If it's really able to be managed, their production from home, then there's a lot of people that can just sit in front of their computers, a lot of, programmers and things like that. They're all at home. But then there's a lot of collaboration and mentorship that gets missed if everyone's at home. So there's a fight to get people back into the offices, and therefore going, what are the offices going to be to make people want to come? Because
so there is a fight to get people back.
100%, but because of the labor market shortage,
people are dictating terms.
So the employees are saying, well, I'll only work if I can do this. So, and that will swing obviously, but that's what employers are going through. There's a saying in Australia at the moment saying that employers have to earn the commute. So how do they get their employees in? And what we're seeing is office spaces becoming more collaborative. The kitchen areas are becoming more like cafes. There's whiteboards that are more flexible and kind of cooler to hang in. End of trip facilities, wellness rooms, things like this that are making someone go, oh, I'd much rather come into the office and have all that cool things.
Surely it's just as much how people are treated and the environment as well. It's a mixture, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I know for professional services, particularly if you've got younger professionals, I know how much I remember when I turned up to my first job, and I had this boss called David Selkirk. He was one of those things, hindsight. I saw him at a drinks for a secretary leaving Auckland a few years ago, and I went up to him and I said, I probably didn't think so at the time, but you were actually a really good boss. I really appreciate what you did. He looked a bit puzzled, but very, very happy. And it's like I turned up and I was the last of 4 grads in a rotation through. It was a decent sized firm. And I remember I got this office and they're like, you're going in there. And I'm like, well, how come why are all the cool kids down there with views and everything? And they were like, nah, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was just straight across from the boss. And I got to listen in on all his phone calls and everything he did. And I just thought he was God. He was actually a bloody good lawyer. And I got to mimic and understand exactly all the stuff. So I realized that my ill fate was actually my great fortune.
Blessing.
In a long run sense. And it was, I got to mimic. And I just think now, particularly with, and there's horses for courses, completely different industries, people particularly like say mothers working part-time, if they, they may already be 12, 15 years into a career and they don't care for coming in.
That's right.
And their bosses might not need them there from that perspective. But for young lawyers, it's critical that they're understanding.
Oh, absolutely. And real estate as well. And there's
Real
front-facing
estate
people kind of jobs and things like that. So it's the one thing you could say about it's different across the board.
Yeah.
But what is cool is it's led to people actually talking to their staff, and like we're doing, we're getting out there, and people are having discussions as opposed to just trying to, they're trying to solve it for themselves, which is quite cool. So any kind of solution, be it downsizing, upsizing, or moving, they're going through quite a process rather than just coming at you going, we've got 20 staff, what can we fit there, you know?
And also, I suppose, greater consciousness on both the employer and employee side in terms of, okay, we've had to fight to get these people to come back. Now that they're back, they expect to be treated a certain way. They expect to be mentored, and there has to be a reason. And for the employer's point of view, it's like, okay, we've gone to all the trouble, the expense in some cases of having them back. We can't now just leave them, because that would be completely hypocritical and a waste of time in that sense. So there's probably been, people have woken up. I don't mean that in a woke sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, it's cool. I think ultimately it's going to lead to a way cooler work environment. Offices, multi-floors with a shared sort of bar area at the top and those kind of things. I think technology as well, like even us sitting here doing this, like in the last couple of years, everyone's got used to Zoom meetings and meetings online. And so how do we make that sort of hybrid where you can have 5 people around this table and 5 up there on the screen and make that work?
Well, COVID did that it was a great disruptor. Much as I hate those corny kind of handles, but it was, because in the sense that, because it's really helped us with our business here, because I don't enjoy networking events. I remember the last one I went to was at that. I don't think I've ever been to an event I've enjoyed, at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron building down on I went there and there was all these people in it. This is the first break after it was 45 minutes in. We were supposed to be there for 4 hours. And I remember going up to the guy that got me along. I said, I'm really sorry. Great event, but this isn't me at all. Yeah. And then I remember having to do about a 60-point turn, and it was right under the window, the big glass window where the people were having the hors d'oeuvres, and they could see me in my car doing the Austin Powers. And I was like, that's it. And then COVID happened, and I was like, okay, I'm going to jump on and do this stuff. And I have way less fear of doing this than everyone out there, watching you and judging, and not that they really care anyway, but they might laugh at you or whatever. But I have far less, I'm far less uncomfortable doing this than I am in a room with 42 men in suits, or men or women in suits, looking all serious in those layers. And I just something inside me dies when I have to be in those environments. So it's not to judge any of those people, because some of them are obviously very adept at doing that, but it's just not me. So that spawned this whole era of all this.
I mean, the interesting thing about this is you have the conversations you would have in this format would be so much more
staid and
and
they're not. It's sort of you hear a lot of what we call here, there's a bit of a joke, boardroom laughs. You get the old the chortle, and it's just, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
But other people hate this. They hate doing this type of thing. They just would hate the thought of sort of them yammering away out there on the internet. So everyone's different, but I've found something I enjoy doing. I don't have any resistance towards, and I actually look forward to doing it. The only struggle for me is getting the tech to work, getting the juniors to help me do. And then, but also just getting to the point where I can organize it and around my schedule, now that we're so much busier than we were, say, during lockdown.
True.
Getting the person to come in, and then obviously it's a commitment for them to come and do it with you. But
have you learnt, like, from the people you've been speaking to, have you learnt stuff? Like, do you think you've
100%, and learning right now. And it's a way of good lawyers understand their clients, understand what motivates them, what drives them, what their fears are, and how they like being dealt with. And any more information you can get from them, whether they think they're giving you information or not, is really helpful for both the lawyer and the client in the relationship.
Yeah, true. You have to really understand,
Yeah.
Really understand, because I assume as well in law, a lot of the driving factors for people would be subconscious, which they're trying to logically justify, but you'd need to understand the underlying kind of. Would that be correct?
Yes. Yes. Often what they've rung up, the issue they've rung up about is actually not their issue.
Yeah.
Something completely. Often someone will ring up and go, "I need a share exit agreement form from you." Okay, why do you need that? Because I'm splitting with my business partner. Why are you splitting with? Because they did this or I did this. So, okay, how long have you been with them? 12 years. Is it a good business? Yes. Okay. Maybe we look at that first before, and often we end up being like highly paid counselors. I'm not joking. It's an incredible, and the paper I just did over at Monash, what I'm still doing, I have to do the assignments, not all the fun bit in the class, getting to, hear the sound of my own voice, but now I have to do the written assignments, which is torturing me. But dealing with high conflict personalities was the last paper I did, and the lecturer said that she used to think, when she's a retired judge in the US, an amazing lady, and she said that when she first got into law, she thought that the difference between a dispute over 10 grand or one over $1 billion was the complexity of the issue. She said after 50 odd years or 45 years in law, she said she now firmly is of the view it's actually not that at all. It's just about the humans behind the conflict.
Yeah.
What's driving the conflict. The money is to some degree immaterial.
So interesting. Humans are so complex.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. And these, what they call high conflict personalities, which I think we all have some degree of that in us, and like I pointed out in class one day, often people, when they come to us, when they're in dispute, you're seeing the worst of them then. Some of them aren't actually that bad. Some people we deal with in dispute, they're really difficult to deal with. And then you deal with them over something a bit more amenable, like buying a house or
high stress situations.
Yeah, they're fine.
People
definitely. So understanding all that part of or trying to understand your client as best possible in that way is can be great.
Yeah, it's going back to acting. That's one of the fun things about having done that, is you get the full permission to go to these really crazy places with different things you do and play, which you kind of in life, you've always got to put the reins on. Yes. And I think that potentially is kind of cathartic, because it gives you huge empathy for people in real life when you see people in that state.
Yes.
Because you have to understand it.
I can completely imagine.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
Because and there's some studies around that, but the brain sometimes, I don't know much about it. I just read some stuff around it where the brain can't always distinguish between, if you've sort of convinced yourself to feel you are that person, you're going through that thing. It's similar.
Yeah.
So and you'd know more about that than me with acting. You have to be in that character, and you're actually experiencing that environment.
It's all just imagination. I mean, what we're experiencing now. It's
100%. It's like when we go to sleep at night and we have a dream. What's real? Is it the dream, or is it? It's now real.
You're right there with the carties, mate.
But then we can go completely off tangent there. Let's wrap it up. No one wants to see us. Well, I'll speak for myself. Me for more than 30 minutes. We're at 28. So it's all going well. Gaze commercial.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing. It's the being involved in the commercial world is really fun, because you back it all up. And what I have learned, getting to my age especially, is that everyone is so cool. At the highest level CEOs and some of the people I'm dealing with, the developers, they're all just real people, just doing, and everyone's trying to do good, which is really nice.
I suppose what's been nice for you too, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that when you come in a bit older and a bit more seasoned in dealing with other humans, you some of the gloves are off in terms of you no longer see those you can see through those sort of veneers and barriers, so you just know it's just another human, even if they have a fancy title.
Yeah, well, it's one of those fun things about growing up, right? As you realize how everyone was just faking it when you were a kid, completely. So and having had the life experience and stuff like that, and done, it's really joyous for me. And I do enjoy the fact floating in, as you would, different people's businesses, seeing what people do for a living, and it's amazing what's going on out there in the world.
And what would be your one bit of advice for, call it your younger self, or someone coming through the ranks that has a bit of a passion for the arts, but also needs to get on in the world, make a bit of cash, have a good life?
Oh, look, I think anything's possible. I think you've just got to dream the life you want to live and live it. You don't have to limit yourself. My younger self, I'd sent to drama school earlier and trust that process, be authentic. I tried to be someone I wasn't for a long time, which stilted my acting.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. That's just growing up, right?
All right, mate. Cool. Thanks so much for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Mike Edward, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great way to start the Wednesday. A little bit of sage advice from a man of the arts and now a man of the...
mixing the music and everything.
Look at that.
That's
That's
seamless.
sensational. Wow. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Now I have to reach around this microphone and turn this bad boy off. She's still live, so you make sure you don't
Say anything. Sure.
Here we go.